solar winds swept clean this planet 4.5 billion years ago. Earth thrived. Its natural elements helped it to flourish, and its bounty was for all to share. Then a life form of superior intelligence evolved, and for a while lived in harmony with the Earth. But paradise has been put into jeopardy. The motives are irrelevant. The consequences, severe. The remedy is written. The elements of life are clear.
In this edition of Elements, two diminutive residents of Sydney Harbour have returned to their native habitat after surviving several adventures, while environmental pressure group Greenpeace has carried out another raid against seal poachers in Western Siberia. Transforming natural science into works of art, with contemporary artists always searching for exciting new mediums and scientists forever looking for new ways to visualize their atomic concepts and ideas, this could be the start of something big. It seems the Japanese obsession of cherry blossom watching has spread to the US. Washington, D.C.'s prize blossoms draw large crowds of onlookers who claim that simply staring at the tiny pink petals makes them calm and happy. A team of Australian researchers is moving closer to human clinical trials in the United States, aimed at curing Parkinson's disease. The research involves therapeutic cloning of human tissue, replacing dying and diseased cells with healthy ones to cure disease. Food aid has begun reaching thousands of nomadic herders in Inner Mongolia, which has been reeling from its harshest winters in 50 years and 2 years of drought. This year, at least 29 people died in blizzards in Inner Mongolia, while thousands of livestock froze to death, threatening the survival of nomadic herders who rely on their animals for their livelihood. The International Red Cross has been distributing food aid to families left destitute by the winter disaster, and say they eventually hope to reach up to 60,000 herders. Here in the hard-hit Zhilingol region, herding families who no longer have the means to support themselves share out the aid supplies with what's left of their livestock herds. A series of droughts and snowfalls have left these people very little. While the worst of the winter may be over, officials say tough times are still ahead for Inner Mongolia's nomads. Overgrazing of grassland in Inner Mongolia and desertification means there are scant supplies of food for surviving livestock. Inner Mongolia's herders rely on their livestock for food, clothing and fuel. The number of herding families classified as poor has almost doubled in recent years. According to scientists, the population of seals in Lake Baikal, Siberia is 67,000, but that figure is declining every year. Some die due to water pollution from the paper mill, others as a result of widespread poaching. The Russian branch of Greenpeace has organised an expedition to the lake to inspect the population of seals and try to stop the poaching of the rare animals. Greenpeace activists, together with local police, flew over Lake Baikal in a bid to track down those who fish and hunt for seals without a licence. Many seals have been rescued from fishing nets put out by fishermen, for whom poaching has become the main source of income. Local residents say they've not been paid for months in state factories and have had to find other means of survival. About 10,000 seals die in Baikal every year by the hands of poachers, who often receive no more than a fine if they're caught. These fines hardly stop poachers from hunting for baby seals, whose fur is especially valuable and brings more money. Over 90% of all baby seals are killed by poachers every year. Greenpeace activists say they're demanding that the local authorities prohibit the hunting of seals altogether. Greenpeace coordinator Roman Pukalov explained that the last mass death of seals occurred in 1987, when hundreds of the animals were found along the whole coast of Baikal. The poachers could now spell the end of the species altogether. Lake Baikal in eastern Siberia is the oldest and deepest freshwater lake in the world, surrounded by mountains and rich with fish. But the lake's most precious and unique creatures are in danger of disappearing forever. On a more positive note, 2 little penguins, also known as blue or fairy penguins, were returned to Sydney Harbour after being treated by Sydney's Taronga Park Zoo following their rescue last month. One of the penguins was found with a fishing hook embedded in his flipper, which unfortunately is not unusual. Most people just cut the lines and leave the debris behind. Zoo staff had to remove the hook, repair the flipper and treat the penguin for dehydration. The other was found in a garage under a Rolls-Royce. It had left the water in order to molt and got itself covered in oil. According to Elizabeth Hall, unit supervisor at the zoo's wildlife clinic, the oil had to be removed with special detergent before the penguin would be able to swim again. The Taronga Park Zoo treats about 40 penguins annually, as well as about 1,000 other animals, ranging from snakes and possums to echidnas and owls. Other little penguins have been arriving at the zoo in the middle of their annual molt. Although the process is natural, the loss of feathers makes them appear ill. When brought to the clinic, they're checked over and treated for any injuries, then kept safe until they finish molting. When they have a completely waterproof set of new feathers, they can be returned to the ocean. After a somewhat tentative start and some slight confusion over which direction they should head, today's pair took to their new home like penguins to water. While fairy penguins were once fairly numerous in the Sydney area, their numbers have diminished in recent years due to coastal development, pollution and attacks by domestic pets. It isn't known how long this adventurous pair will stay in the harbour or how far afield they might travel. Being great swimmers, the species has been known to have made sea journeys of over 1,200 kilometres. A space ride over the Martian landscape? Not quite. Dream pictures of another dimension? In a way, yes, but an internal world. This is a computerized representation of the elements that form the Earth. The peaks and valleys represent the highs and lows of the atomic mass and density of the elements. The periodic table of the 109 known elements is familiar to students of chemistry. Transforming it into works of art is new. But the idea of science inspiring artists is a familiar one, and scientists are always looking for new ways to visualize their atomic concepts and ideas. So the relationship is mutual. Each of the 109 known various elements is illustrated as a symbol. Arsenic is common in shellfish, hence the lobster. The map of Cyprus is a reminder that copper is derived from the island's name. With its potential for use in nuclear weapons, the element plutonium is represented by the Hindu deity Shiva, the creator and destroyer of mankind, while helium gas explodes in a solar-like flare that consumes the universe. This is a three-dimensional computer animation of the elements. In this instance, it shows the use of neon gas in modern strip lighting. The grey metal cerium, used in flints for pocket lighters, is rendered as a giant asteroid spinning through space. Magnesium, an element of all living things, appears leafy green. So is this a scientific illustration or a work of art in its own right? The illustrated table of the elements is just one aspect of the month-long Arts and Science Festival, centred on the museums and colleges of South Kensington. For over a century, one of the hubs of London's artistic and scientific communities. It's no accident that these arts and science institutions and the Royal Albert Hall find themselves as neighbours. The proceeds of the Great Exhibition of 1851, held in Hyde Park, were used to set up those buildings in what was then parkland on the edge of London. An appropriate setting then for the Creating Sparks Festival, which examines the many-faceted relationship between arts and sciences. Immortality, creation, evolution. The stuff of artistic as well as scientific inquiry, and the inspiration for these works by sculptor John Robinson. As part of the festival, a collection of his clean-line sculptures were on show at the Royal Geographic Society, next to the Royal Albert Hall. The festival is hoping to break new ground in understanding artistic and scientific creativity. The heart of the festival is the annual week-long meeting of the British Association for the Advancement of Science, a showcase of research in all areas of science, which each year bases itself at a different British university. This year is the turn of the Imperial College of Science, Technology and Medicine. Scientists have the opportunity to tell the public how far they've gotten with their pet research projects. A team from Imperial College is on the verge of developing a way to stop asthma attacks without the need for regular steroid inhalers. In asthma, white cells invade the lungs, causing shortness of breath and wheezing. The Imperial College team has found a way of blocking the lungs' receptors to prevent the accumulation of white cells. Another project looks at insects, the world's best flyers. They've perfected their hovering and maneuvering ability over 300 million years. Mimicking this ability with engineering is a tall order, to say the least. But researchers are working hard on developing 6-inch flying robots that can maneuver slowly and silently inside buildings. A camera-equipped hovering robot could be used in dangerous situations, like searching for survivors of earthquakes. The idea is to make one that can fly through gaps in the fallen masonry, locate survivors, and plan safer removal of rubble to free them.
That area up there where you said you were, you're not getting anybody answering back to you. What do you call it?
The Royal Albert Hall, used more for symphony orchestras than circuses, has rarely seen anything like this. For one special day, it was transformed to stage an event designed to spark scientific curiosity in school children. A circus clown proved a painless way for these youngsters to experience some of the effects of friction and gravity. There were plenty of hands-on activities too. University lecturers were ready and waiting to help these children convert their mechanical ideas into working models. It was all cleverly designed to get the kids interested in science and technology. With the accent on virtual reality, there's a danger that model building is a skill that's being forgotten. Mixing fun with learning is the motto of the day. And working in the real world, how can sport and fitness be left out? Reaction times, heart rates, science has a role in all aspects of training and testing. Science or art? For these children, it's all just learning with a whole lot of fun thrown in. April in Japan is cherry blossom time. People who've never lived in Japan are likely to think, big deal. But it really is a big deal here. The Japanese are simply mad about their cherry blossom festivals, called Sakura Matsuri, and the accompanying O Hanami, or cherry blossom viewing. Hundreds of people walk around parks admiring the pale pink trees at this time of year, while many more sit under them to eat, drink and make merry. Some even spend the night and go home early in the morning. Spring is also a season when college students join companies and start working. Getting a good spot under the cherry trees is one of their first jobs for the company. And once they've found a nice patch, they guard it until their colleagues arrive in the evening for drinks after work. For centuries, the cherry blossom viewing has been a favourite pastime of the Japanese. Many enjoy being surrounded by the pink petals. According to most people here, just looking at the sakura or cherry blossom makes them happy. A continent away, people's quest for happiness and their methods of achieving it are remarkably similar. Washington, D.C.'s prized cherry blossoms draw large crowds of onlookers as well, who wander the sidewalks to catch a glimpse of the tiny pink petals. It doesn't matter how you choose to admire them, the cherry blossoms always provide the stuff of inspiration. Luis Gutierrez, a 9-year-old Claremont Elementary School student, drew the Washington Monument surrounded by cherry blossoms. His teacher, Susan Scollin, brought the children to Washington, not just to look at the flowers, but to be inspired by nature. The original 3,000 cherry trees were planted in 1912, a gift to the people of Washington, D.C. from the mayor of Tokyo. The gift was a goodwill gesture to enhance the relationship between the peoples of Japan and the United States. More than 700,000 people visit Washington, D.C. each year to admire the 3,700 blossoming cherry trees that currently grow in the city. While some taking in the view are happy not to analyze it all too deeply, others say that coming here is a must when you live in a city that moves so fast. Scientists in the United States, working together with colleagues in China, have been studying the first dinosaur fossil to be found with a fully intact body. Scientists have identified it as being a dromaeosaur, a dinosaur thought to be most closely related to birds. The dromaeosaur was a quick-moving dinosaur associated with the Velociraptor, as well as Tyrannosaurus rex. The bird-like dinosaur was unearthed by farmers in a fossil bed last spring in China, and this is the first non-avian dinosaur with full body covering to be found. According to Dr. Mark Norrell, chairman of paleontology at the American Museum of Natural History, the dromaeosaur was highly agile, highly active, and probably highly intelligent. And according to Dr. Norrell, it looked like a dust mop on legs with big sprays of feathers, just like an overgrown bird. Nicholas, otherwise known as Nikki, is just a week old and was bred from the DNA of another cow. She's the second cow to be born in Thailand using cloned DNA, and farmers believe this kind of genetic experimentation will be the way of the future for breeding farm animals across the country. Scientists took part of the donor cow's ear to extract DNA. This DNA was then grown in a lab for 7 days before being implanted into the egg of an unknown cow. The fertilized egg was then inserted into the uterus of a third cow. Nature then took over from the scientists, and on April the 3rd, Nikki was born, genetically identical to the cow which donated the DNA. Farm manager Sombat Siriodomset said cows like Nikki cost a lot of money to import from overseas, but with the new technology, farmers can keep breeding good quality cattle at a fraction of the cost. The world first witnessed the cloning of a farm animal when Dolly the sheep was created in 1996. Since then, scientists around the world have experimented with the technology and caused controversy by suggesting the cloning of human beings is just around the corner. With diseases like foot and mouth causing livestock problems across Europe, Sombat believes that this new technology is a definite benefit to Thailand's cattle industry. Not only would cloned cattle be less susceptible to deadly diseases, but they could be bred at a faster rate, which ultimately means more cattle for the local farmers. In other cloning news, Matilda, Australia's answer to Dolly, was born of the same cloning technology as that other famous sheep. But now at the Turretfield Research Centre, a second generation of cloned sheep is about to be born. The dozen or so young lambs due will play a key role in research into human disease. A team of Australian scientists is preparing to conduct human clinical trials in the United States in about 2 years, using therapeutic cloning of human cells to cure Parkinson's disease. But the research is controversial. It involves using human embryos. The use of human embryos has become vital to much of the research aimed at unlocking the secrets to a seemingly incurable disease. Embryonic cells, or stem cells, are used because they have not yet developed specific functions. They can be developed into most of the specialized cells in the human body, including nerve, muscle, or blood cells. That may lead to tailor-made tissue, which could replace dead and diseased cells with healthy new ones. It could be to degenerative disease what immunization was to infectious disease. At the Adelaide University, a team of scientists working with a biotech company have successfully integrated healthy cells into the brains of newborn rats. The ramifications of such research is enormous, but due to restrictions in Australia, its use of embryos will be limited. The Adelaide researchers are also working on taking stem cells from adult tissue rather than human embryos. Eventually, healthy cells could be taken out of a sick person, grown into the specific cells required, and transplanted back in order to cure a particular disease. For sufferers of Parkinson's disease, such as 49-year-old Lindsay Kremen, time is of the essence. Every day his tremors become worse, his movement more limited. If the dead nerve cells in Kremen's brain can be replaced with healthy cells, his future would be very different. Matilda and the generations of animal clones that follow may hold the key, and the only hope to perfecting techniques for tailor-made human tissue. An international debate is raging right now about cloning of humans, which most members of the scientific community believe is very unfortunate. It detracts, they say, from their aim of curing a myriad of human afflictions. Being able to advance the technology of therapeutic cloning or cell therapy without crossing the ethical boundaries of using human embryos will be crucial.